Again, welcome to all of you, and thank you for your interest there in our work. Sorry there also for being late, but we had very intensive discussions, in particular around the two topics. This was about the report of the Future Host Commission and the more and more grave situation in the International Weightlifting Federation. We received their delegation virtually, of course, from Tokyo 2020. This was for the first time led by President Hashimoto Seiko, and she was very warmly welcomed by all the members of the executive board as an Olympian, as an experienced political figure, as a former chef de mission. So she was really appreciated, and her nomination was appreciated there by everybody in the executive board and in the entire Olympic movement. And with her report, she could also already demonstrate that she knows the portfolio, that she is up to date to all the details of this organization, so that there is a very seamless transfer of power there in the organizing committee. She highlighted her strategic priorities, which will focus on safety, on gender equality and legacy. And this is, as you know, fully aligned with the vision of delivering safe and secure games for everybody, fully aligned with Olympic Agenda 2020, and was there also, again, very well appreciated, in particular by the chair of the Coordination Commission, John Coates, who could also report that there was a lot of positive feedback on the publication of the first edition of the playbooks for the different stakeholder groups, as you know, more to follow in this respect. The same echo we got from the chair of the Athletes Commission, Executive Board member Kirsty Coventry. She reported that there was a call with about 150 athletes representatives from all around the world. And there it was also about the playbooks. And she informed us that these athletes representatives were really embracing the playbooks, and with their questions gave also a very good input for the next editions, for the next versions, which then, by nature will be more specific. In particular, they are more sport specific. Related to Tokyo 2020, we have also discussed the IOC Refugee Olympic team. Their Olympic Solidarity is currently supporting 55 promising refugee athletes originating from 13 countries and being hosted by 21 NOCs across all 5 continents and representing 12 sports. Since the Olympic Games Rio 2016, Olympic Solidarity has invested more than $2 million in support for refugee Olympic scholarship holders preparing for the Olympic Games. The final composition of the IOC Refugee Olympic Team Tokyo 2020 will be announced at the Executive Board in June, and will be based on a number of criteria. Of course, including the athletes' sporting performance, but also the qualification as a refugee, enjoying refugee status confirmed by UNHCR, as well as a balanced representation in terms of sport, gender, and regions. The ongoing anti-doping testing for these scholarship holders is, of course, organized by ITA. We then had to turn again, unfortunately, to the International Weightlifting Federation, whose situation, as I mentioned, is becoming more and more grave. The EB expressed its extreme concern, particularly by the lack of significant changes with regard to the management and the culture there in IWF. We acknowledged that one change in the IWF anti-doping rules has been reversed after the intervention of the executive board. But we had also to note that many other requested changes and advice from the IOC, from ITA, and from external experts have been ignored by IWF, despite all the warnings we had issued. So there the EB wants to be very clear by saying that if these concerns are not addressed in a satisfactory and timely way, the IOC-EB will have to review the place of weightlifting on the program of the Olympic Games Paris 2024 and future Olympic Games. We then at the presentation of the future host commission for the Games of the Olympiad, with a very intensive and fruitful discussion there. This happened in the context of the revolution there of the future Olympic Games election procedure, which we approved in June 2019, there the IOC session. We have turned, as into a more targeted and more flexible approach, ensuring to lower the cost of any project to a minimum, and to prevent there also any undue influence and lobbying. This approach is done in the spirit of a partnership with all interested parties. The dialogue is happening in an open and professional way, which you can compare with similar procedures in the business world and from a big number of other international sport and event organizers. What is important to this mutual, trustful and cooperative dialogue is that it is exclusively up to the interested party to communicate about their project and interest. The Commission, according to these regulations, does not and cannot communicate because one of the major reasons for the new procedure is to not put the interested parties against each other. We have created these two future host commissions there with, again, the clear rule, which is laid down even in the Olympic Charter, that no executive board member can serve on this commission, is allowed to serve on such a commission. The future host commission for the Games of the Olympiad received interest declarations from numerous parties and NOCs across the world. Some of these NOCs decided to keep the dialogue fully non-committal and or confidential, means they did not join the continuous dialogue, but were benefiting from the advice they were seeking from the Commission. Other NOCs entered into this official first stage of the new procedure, which is this continuous dialogue phase. And this started immediately after the new procedure was decided by the IOC session. And we are very delighted to see the high appreciation from potential hosts of the Games for this new cost-saving, targeted, dialogue-oriented procedure, which this appreciation, which we can learn from their, the good number of interested parties. Today, we received a report by the Future Host Commission for the Games of the Olympiad. This Commission recommended to the Executive Board to enter into a targeted dialogue with Brisbane 2032 and the Australian Olympic Committee for the Games of the 35th Olympiad. The Executive Board has unanimously, after a very intensive discussion, approved this recommendation. And I would like to emphasize, that this recommendation and this decision is not a decision against anybody. This is just a decision in favor of one interested party at this moment in time. The Commission, based on this decision, will now start more detailed discussions with the Brisbane 2032 Committee and the Australian Olympic Committee about their potential to host the Olympic Games 2032 and to further evaluate this. And with this, I would like to hand over to Mrs. Christine Kloster-Asen, the chair of this Future Host Commission, who will present to you the procedure, but also the considerations which led to the recommendation of the Future Host Commission. Christine, you have the floor.
I would like to take this opportunity to also emphasize that the mandate of the Future Host Commission is different from the evaluation commissions of the past candidature processes. The Future Host Commission look into all technical elements, but also have a much more strategic approach. The mandate of the Commission allows to assess the global context, including socio-economic and geopolitical aspects, and future challenges for the Olympic Games, such as climate change, and the Commission also looks into opportunities when they are presented. I am pleased to have been in non-committal discussion with a number of interested parties about future hosting opportunities for either the Olympic Games or the Youth Olympic Games. In December, we asked the interested parties for a full update on their status, and we had discussions with all of them. The Commission gave the opportunity of a presentation and discussion to the interested parties that were in continuous dialogue, and this resulted in meetings on the 3rd, the 8th and the 9th of February this year. The Commission has also engaged with those NOC that have chosen not to be in continuous dialogue at this stage. We did this initiative to hasten the interested parties, but for us to get the full picture on their development. We indicated also that we could potentially consider advancing the process, and the updates we got were the basis on which we moved forward. Decision to advance the process was taken now, given the uncertainty the world is facing at this moment, which is expected to continue even after the COVID-19 health crisis is over. The IOC is considering seizing the momentum offered by the excellent project of Brisbane 2032 and the Australian in this way bringing stability to the Olympic Games, the athletes, the IOC, and the whole Olympic movement. The main reasons why Brisbane 2032 was proposed for the targeted dialogue are the very advanced Games concept, which is fully aligned with Olympic Agenda 2020, and using 80–90% of existing or temporary venues. The venue master plan, which has already been discussed with international sports federations and International Paralympic Committee. The high level of expertise in hosting major international sports events. The favorable climate conditions for athletes in July and August, despite the current global challenges caused by climate change. The alignment of the Games with Southeast Queensland long-term strategy to improve local transport infrastructure, absorb demographic change, and promote economic growth. Australia's sporting success throughout modern Olympic history. The last game in Oceania was Sydney 2000, which would mean that the Games returning to the continent 32 years later. The existing unplanned transport infrastructure and experience in traffic management, which can adequately meet the demands of the Olympic Games and were successfully implemented for the Commonwealth Games in 2018. The existing hotel accommodations inventory, which already meets Games requirements. They also have strong support from all three levels of government, as confirmed on several occasions by highest level representatives from the City of Brisbane, the South East Queensland Council of Mayors, the State of Queensland, and the federal government. The strong political support is also the support of the private sector. Australia's high scores on human development indices, in particular its great progress towards achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In evaluating all of this, the IOC also included detailed information from third-party independent sources, in particular, the World Bank, the International Labour Organization, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and numerous UN agencies, including the United Nations Development Programme. The Future Host Commission will now start a targeted dialogue with the Brisbane 2032 Committee and the Australian Olympic Committee, and will report back to the IOC Executive Board on the outcome of these discussions in due course. If all the requirements are met, the IOC Executive Board can propose the election of the future host of the Games of the 35th Olympiad to the IOC session. If the discussions are not successfully concluded, Brisbane 2032 will rejoin the continuous dialogue. At the same time, the Future Host Commission will also maintain the continuous dialogue with the other interested parties in order to further develop their excellent and promising projects, be it for the Olympic Games 2032, if the targeted dialogue with Brisbane 2032 and the Australian Olympic Committee is not successful, or for the Olympic Games 2036 and other future Olympic events. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll take over from the President. Thank you very much, Mrs. Kloster-Assen. And now, as previewed by me earlier on, sorry for the false start, we will now go to the questions and answers session. And I'm going to start with Graham Dunbar. Sorry to give you a heart attack at the beginning of this, from Associated Press. Graham, your question, please.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. And Mr. Bach, I see we're in a bit of a hair-growing contest at the moment. Apologise for mine. A question about good governance and the perception that a new process for bidding has sort of immediately rewarded the IOC official who's most closely identified with shaping the process in its creation. And there has been off and on over the last decade of the wisdom of having IOC vice presidents running WADA and CAS, and the perception for those, the reputation of those organizations, even given all the consultation you've done with the UN and the World Bank. Do you have any concerns about this sort of perception of whether you're meeting best practice governance standards for an international organization in sport.
Thank you. Let's see who's winning the contest there. I'm almost back to the 70s, in the last century. But I can inform you that next Monday I have an appointment there with the hairdresser. So let's compare right after. Now, with regard to the general question, I will then refer, how this was the procedure that was organized in the commission. There, just to state the facts. In the commission, no member of the IOC executive board is allowed to sit. This is even a rule of the Olympic Charter. Mr. Coates has not taken part in any kind of discussion of the IOC executive board concerning the reports of the future host commission, or related directly or indirectly to the Olympic Games 2032. And all this is supervised, by our compliance department, who at the beginning of every meeting is clearly explaining which member of the IOC executive board is conflicted with regard to different interests, and is therefore excluded from the concerning discussions. And this is, in fact, best practice, that whenever a conflict of interest arises, you solve it by not participating in the related discussions or decisions. And with this, then I maybe can over to Christian Kloster-Hasen again to explain maybe a little bit more in detail how the Commission itself organized this procedure.
Well, thank you for the question. It is in our terms of reference. We have strict rules for conflict of interest and indeed perceived conflicts of interest as well. And we avoid any such conflict of interest in all our deliberations. For one thing, like the President just said, no member of the EB can have a seat at the Commission. And also no member of the Commission may sit on the Commission if his or her country is involved in a continuous dialogue with the Commission. So in terms of conflict of interest, I think we are well covered and very much aware of the potential risks here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go now to second question to Robert Livingston from Gamesbid.com. Robert, your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was part of I was one of the journalists in looking at the Sweden and Italy bids, winter bids. And at the time, it was a very open process. We were given lots of access. It was really a change from even before that. Why the sudden 180? What has changed so much that we went from that completely open, refreshing process to what we have now?
There I may have to refer to the discussions in 2019, where we had to face a situation where we could see that because the candidates, were put against each other in this kind of contest, that we had exponentially less and less candidates because the candidates being eliminated or losing a vote, could not justify towards their community to come back with another candidature right after. We also saw, not in the case of their Sweden and Milano, but before, we saw, a lot of lobbying going on. This has led already to the first reforms. I remember with this lobby register, which we had introduced, but we could still see that there was a lot of lobbying, that the costs were very high because all the lobbyists and consultants had to be paid by the candidate cities, and that it also led to governance problems in the candidatures before. I can there only refer to the still ongoing procedures with regard to legal procedures with regard to some of them. And these, were the reasons why we said we have to change this procedure, and there again to follow. There are also examples from the business world or other sports event organizers where you avoid this kind of situation, where one candidate is attacking the other, and I'm better here, and I'm better here, and I'm the best. And I don't need to explain you. You have experience enough by having followed all this procedure. But I can understand that this is interesting. For journalists, for media to follow such a situation. But you also know from this work that this was not the best procedure, neither for the future of the Games nor for the reputation of the IOC.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, President. Let's go now to Carlos Grohmann from Reuters. Carlos?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. President. A question on the dialogue for Brisbane 2032. How long do you think this dialogue will last, and at what session will the vote for 2032 take place? And a question, if I may, on the German interest to host the 2032 Olympics and the multiple bid from private individuals. What was your consideration in the decision of that German bid? Thank you.
There, I cannot answer to you because both questions are in the hands of the future host commission. So I would have to refer to Mrs. Kloster-Aase.
Okay.
On your first question, thank you. The time frame for the targeted dialogue, we will work on that. We will start to work on that straight away. And in due course, we will present the result of that work to the executive board. The objective of the targeted dialogue is to co-create an Olympic project with the preferred host. So whereas there was in continuous dialogue, no formal submission by interested parties, the preferred host is now asked to submit some documents in the targeted dialogue, and in addition to that, some guarantees. And these documents will be studied by the future host commission, and we will report back to the executive board in due course. On the second question, there is a reference to the German interest. As we said, we cannot disclose any information coming from the continuous dialogue. But I can tell you that the NOC of Germany had confirmed in a meeting in February this year not to become part of the continuous dialogue phase as this far. So that is the basis for the recommendations also in this respect to the German bid.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos. Let's go to Japan now, to Hiroki Toda from Asahi Shimbun. Hiroki?
Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you, President. I have a question regarding Tokyo Games. Could you give us updates on vaccines for the eJNLCs? I think you referred that eJNLCs will be reporting their situation in early February. And what kind of demands and requests were given to the IOC? Thank you.
Well, thank you. In fact, this contact of the NOCs with their respective governments is making very good progress according to these reports we have received in a number of NOCs. There is already an agreement with the respective National Olympic Committee in line with the national regulations on vaccination. In a number of countries, vaccination of the Olympic team has even started, and other NOCs will take contact with their governments in the next couple of weeks. So we are very satisfied there with the progress in this respect.
Thank you very much. Let's stay with Japanese media and Wakako Yuki from Yomiuri Shimbun. Wakako?
Thank you, President. Thank you, Mark. President, may I ask one more question regarding Tokyo? Seiko Hashimoto last week told us in her inaugural speech that she hopes to change the perception, negative public opinion in Japanese society so that athletes can prepare for their dreams without hesitation. What is your thoughts there, and perhaps advice for her to change such public opinion? And also, if I may, this future host, were there any developments for Winter Games future host discussions? Thank you.
Well, thank you. With regard to the first question, there Mrs. Hashimoto, Seiko, and the organizing committee and the Japanese government and the Tokyo metropolitan government, they're in a much better position to know how to communicate with the Japanese people. So there it's not up to me to give advice. I can only state, that what I have said there many times, that from a human point of view, I can understand very well that during such a pandemic that people are skeptical, that they have doubts about their personal future, the future of their employers, the future of their lives. And that in this respect, it does not come as a surprise to me that they also have skeptical feelings about then Olympic Games. But there, Mrs. Hashimoto has also explained, if I'm well informed, there that she and I think all the responsible actors there think that once the vaccination campaign in Japan is showing results, and when then the infection rates are going even further down, then this will then also give the Japanese people the opportunity to look into their personal future more optimistic, and also to look into the future of the Olympic Games Tokyo this summer, more optimistic.
Question about winter hosts.
There was no report from this commission on the winter Olympic Games.
Thank you, Wakako. Let's go to Liam Morgan from Inside the Games. Liam, can you ask your question, please?
Good evening, Mr. President. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Two questions, if I may. Firstly, one quickly on Belarus. I mean, what impact will the NOC elections, I believe they're having their elections on Friday, have on the chance of the Belarusian flag flying at this year's Olympic Games in Tokyo? And secondly, on Queensland, how would you and the IOC respond to criticism of the process, considering, you know, Brisbane has been approved by a very, very small number of IOC members, and the session will not get much impact on who hosts the games, because they will simply have to ratify the selection of one host city when that eventually comes. So how would you respond to that criticism? Thank you.
With regard to the first question concerning Belarus, we are closely monitoring the situation, and I will not speculate now on the outcome of elections there in the NOC of Belarus. We will wait for the outcome, and then it's the right time to discuss this issue further. With regard to the second question, you know, all this happened very clearly in compliance with the rules having been passed unanimously by the IOC session in 2019 for all the reasons I have been giving for making the choice and the whole procedure more low cost to prevent any undue interference, to make it less political, to make it more sober, if I may say. And the session decided to put this question of the preferred the targeted dialogue in the hands of the IOC Executive Board, and the IOC Executive Board today has unanimously approved this recommendation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, President. Let's go to Henry Bushnell from Yahoo Sports. Henry, if you're there.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Great. Question on the 2022 Beijing Games. There are a lot of concerns around just them being hosted by a country that's accused of genocide and that doesn't comply with a lot of international human rights standards. Two-part question. First, what specific assurances has the IOC received from Beijing related to human rights? And then second, for example, if an Olympic athlete were to speak at a press conference during the 2022 Games and criticize China for its human rights record, would the IOC support that athlete and protect them from any potential consequences?
We have received from the organizing committee and the Chinese partner all the assurances contained in the host city contract, which the host city contract is public and can be studied by everybody. This includes there also a number of these critical questions to which you're referring to, and we have at this stage no doubt that China will deliver on this host city contract.
Okay, Thank you very much. Let's have a couple of questions now from Australia. Tracy Holmes from ABC. Tracy, your question, please.
Thanks, Mark. My question is to Mr. Bach. With regard to Brisbane being designated this role now, what's to stop Queenslanders and Australians celebrating as though they already have the Games? Is there an issue with being in this position 11 years out with regard to budgets changing so much? And potentially, will some of the changes that we're going to see in Tokyo, such as athletes flying in and flying out, perhaps be something of all future Olympic Games to help also reduce the costs of accommodation, transport, etc.?
I think that's a question we'll put to Kirsten Kloster-Arsen as the chair of the Future Host Commission for the Olympiad. Kirsten?
Thank you. The first part of your question is that this is a decision made today that takes the Australian project into a dialogue. And depending on the outcome of the targeted dialogue and the recommendation that we might give to the executive board for them maybe to put the Brisbane project forward for an election at the session. So it's not a done deal if you know what I mean, but it's a progress made today in terms of clarification. On your second question, I would like to refer that to Christophe Duby, Olympic Director Christophe Duby. He would be able to talk in more detail. Christophe, please.
Thank you, Chair. And Tracy, when it comes to the budget and the changes, there are a number of things we know to date, and the basis for the host contract is known to the public, and this is on the IOC's website. Now, we want to make sure, and this is something we had introduced with the Agenda 2020, is that there is a protection to the future host in case of changes decided by the IOC. So that stays, it's in place, it's in the contract. So there is a budget that they have to refine. Obviously, now that they are going into the targeted dialogue, we will continue to engage with them to give them, and that's a bridge to your second question or your third question, a bridge to what we have introduced in the context of Tokyo. Athletes' measures are to face the COVID situation. So I would leave this aside at present. However, there are 100 of measures that we have introduced in the context of Tokyo that will benefit Queensland in the targeted dialogue to refine their budget. So this is the work that we have to do. And as Kristen said before, there is a lot of work in the coming month to go into those details and also obviously gathers all the guarantees.
Thank you very much, Christophe. Let's stay with Australian media now. Shannon Marshall-McCormack. Shannon, Channel 9 News. Do you want to ask your question, please?
Yes, g'day, Thomas Bach. It's nice to see you again. Last time I saw you was in Lausanne, Switzerland, back in September 2019. It's a bit early in the morning here in Brisbane. Some very exciting news, though. Can you just tell us from your perspective, since you last met with the Premier and the Queensland and Australian delegation, what has made Australia, Queensland, Brisbane the standout, I guess, as you say, preferred city going forwards for the 2032 Games?
I cannot answer because I was not part of this discussion in the Commission. I'm not allowed. I would have loved to, maybe to listen a little bit at least, but that's unfortunately not, or fortunately not possible. So I have to refer to Mrs. Kloster-Arsen. Christine?
Before you do pass on, can I just ask then, from your perspective, because I'm pretty sure I'll only get one chance to ask this question. For you, is Brisbane and Queensland a standout so far?
Again, all the evaluation has been done by this commission. They know all the details. They had all the meetings with the different partners, and I prefer to answer only questions to which I know what I'm talking about. So please understand that for this reason, I really would like to refer to Christine Kloster-Haase.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Try and answer your question. The reason for us recommending the Brisbane project is that they are a very advanced project. There is a number of criteria that sits really well with us, and they have an excellent master plan. Everything I said in my introduction and which is also in the press release. I think also that you will find most of your questions answered by the IOC feasibility assessment that is public after today. It bears the signs of a project that has been molded for a number of years with a high level support from the government, 3 levels of government, good legacy plans, good venue plan, also of the climate issues that are facing, this is a global challenge. It ticks the box for that. There are many things that made us want to put this forward, and the reasoning behind it is quite well described, or very well described, in the feasibility assessment that we made only in January.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to Germany now. ARD and Markus Tepper. Markus Tepper, your question, please.
I hope this finds you well, ma'am and Mr. President. I have some questions, if I may. The first one is really only to make it clear, the German Olympic Committee did not join the ongoing talks about a bid, but sent a signal that it's too early for them. The second question is, what is your recommendation to other bidding, stand-buying cities right now, while the Queensland and Brisbane seems to be the preferred bidder? And if I may, the last question, ma'am, you mentioned you have talked about with some NGOs and UN organization. Did you also talk to Greenpeace when it comes to the climate change you mentioned with regards to the huge mining and coal mining projects around the Queensland region? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In regard to the German interested party, there is for everyone to approach the IOC, to have the plans discussed and evaluated, not evaluated, but discussed in terms of a possible future planning of the games. The German project, but at the end of the day, at some point, the National Olympic Committee of the country needs to get on board the project and to declare an interest. And that doesn't, if they don't, that doesn't mean that the project is not interesting or that we wouldn't entertain talking to them in the future, or indeed all the time. But at one point you need to decide whether or not you want to enter the continuous dialogue or not. And the German NOC have decided so far, and we respect that, that they wouldn't want to do that as of now. So those are undramatic the way I see it, but that's the way it is, and that's the reason for them not to to go into the dialogue and for not being part of the presentation today. In terms of the climate issues that you and the NGOs and also the bodies that you ask us if we have consulted, I would have to refer that to Christoph again, maybe to bring some more clarity to that, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Recommendation to other bidders?
Pardon me?
What's your recommendation? What should the other bidders who are not part of the preferred process, what should they do? Being standby for the future, or what's your recommendation?
No, our recommendation is very much for them to stay in the continuous dialogue. There is a variety of different levels that the interested parties and the projects are on. It varies from a very well developed or quite well developed project, not so well developed project, but I think similar for all of them is that they have an enthusiastic approach to the future, and I think that actually comes from the new approach that we allow the countries, the NOCs and interested parties globally to take interest in hosting the games. And we see from the continuous dialogue and from informal dialogues even before the continuous dialogue that there is an interest, and to let these interested parties develop in their own time and in their own pace, aligning themselves with the development plans of their countries. That is, I think, a very good idea, and it works well.
So I think I owe you an answer on the engagement with Greenpeace and the civil society at large. Marcus, remember one thing: this was not at this stage an evaluation. It was a submission in the context of the continuous dialogue. It was not meant to be at this stage an evaluation. Now they will have to respond, as we said, to a questionnaire. And again, you can find it on the IOC website, so you know what is coming up, including the guarantees that will be requested. When we are at this stage, we will do as we have done in the past. We are open to discussions with NGOs and civil society at large. This is something we have done in the past since the adoption of Agenda 2020, and this is something we will continue to do. And I do expect to have some of these conversations. And if you would ask me, just one little compliment to the second question. Yes, and Marcus, on this point as well, we have evaluated with third-party analysis, and here you will find in the feasibility assessment the list of all the sources that we have consulted, third-party independent sources. And also you will find in the critical areas of sustainable developments how well Australia is doing in this respect. And this is something that was very much part of this feasibility assessment. So this part is already done, and then in the future we'll have the conversation as they might arise. When it comes then to the recommendations, one thing we have said very clearly is that the targeted dialogue will lead to hopefully a positive outcome should it not be conclusive, however. And this we have made very clear to the others, that they should stand ready, and they will certainly do so. There are also other Olympic events which are of interest. And there as well, we have made clear that we are continuing the dialogue with them, including in the context of other events. And the door is very much open.
Thank you, Christoph. Let's go now, and thank you, Marcus. Let's go now to Ed Hula from Around the Rings. Ed Hula, your question, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Nice to see all of you. In the past, host cities were chosen about 7 years before the Olympic Games. You're on track, perhaps, with this Queensland decision to extend that to 10 years ahead of the Games. Is that the sort of standard that you'd like to see moving forward for when a host city is selected? Is 10 years now a more suitable time frame for a lead up to the Games than 6 or 7, as has been done in the past?
Yeah, I think I'll pass that one over to Kristen Kloster-Arsen, please. If you could answer that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a good question. I think that the approach actually the structure of the new approach actually answers your question, because one of the very important about the new approach is to actually see the world as it is at the moment and seize the opportunity when it presents itself. And the 7-year rule is out, and this is an ongoing an ongoing approach where we assess the risks and opportunities in terms of several different factors. So I hope that would answer your question, but it's not a given 11 years or a given 7 years. It's based on whichever context the world is in at the moment.
Thank you very much. Let's move on swiftly to Ryota Asabi from GG Press. We've got a few more questions left now. So,
thank you, Mark. Good evening, President. My question goes to the President. Mine is kind of follow-up question of Wakako's regarding Japanese negative opinions holding the Olympic Games in this summer. Not a little Japanese people are worried that the Olympics will worsen the COVID-19 situation domestically. And how will the IOC take responsibility if the situation in Japan gets worse after the Games? And how would you reassure those that are worried? Thank you.
There is, the clear commitment of the IOC, of the Japanese government, of the organizing committee of Tokyo Metropolitan Government that these games will provide a safe environment for all the participants and the Chinese people. And this is a principle to which we stick. This is why you see this far-reaching anti-COVID measures already, being devised and introduced now, and this will continue with the next playbooks. And there we will, based, on the scientific advice of World Health Organizations, other experts, the health authorities in many countries, follow this principle. As by the way, we are not the first ones there. As many international federations and sports events have shown that it is possible and how it is possible. And you have not heard from any of these host countries there are any concerns with rising corona figures after such world championships or big sports events. And you yourself in Japan have experienced in this with the baseball season, with the international gymnastics events, and with many others. So there, everybody who wants to see can see that it is possible. And there they can also see, the full commitment of all parties being responsible for the organization of these games, led by the clear scientific advice of many experts around the globe.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Ryota. We are coming up to the hour mark, so we'll probably have two more questions. Let's go to Alex Capstick from the BBC, and then we'll finish with Mark von Tuyak. So, Alex, your question, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just a question on Queensland, Brisbane. Did you say that the decision could be made in Tokyo, the session in Tokyo, or was it just an IOC session in the future? And also, why is there such a hurry to do this? The games aren't until 2032, and Brisbane's offer or bid was already well developed. They hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2018. I guess some of the other potential bidders had a lot more to do, and in COVID that might have been difficult for them. So I just wonder why this decision been made so quickly. Could not it have been delayed for a while, or were you under pressure from Brisbane to make this decision right now?
Thank you, Alex. Let's go to Mrs. Kloster-Assen. I think she partly answered that question before, but the second part. But over to you, Mrs. Kloster-Assen.
In the targeted dialogue, thank you for the question. In the targeted dialogue, there are demands to be met by the Brisbane project, and there are guarantees that need to be met. And And if they meet all the requirements, the future host commission would recommend to the EB perhaps then to put it forward to an IOC session for election. But that is in the future for now. So this is not something that I foresee is going to take years. But I cannot preempt the process in which we are now entering with Brisbane in terms of the targeted dialogue. But they are very aware of what the targeted dialogue implies and what the requirements will be moving forward. And in terms of the second question, I don't know if I need to elaborate. I think that our recommendation was to seize the opportunity which presented itself, also given the economic outlook and the financial outlook globally for the future, and many other factors that played into our recommendations to put this forward to the executive board today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Let's go to our final question from Marc Van Tuyac from L'Équipe. Marc, you there?
Je suis là. Bonsoir, President. Good evening or good morning, everybody. I have two questions. The first one, mince, je parlais en anglais, sorry. Pardon. Ma première question.
Allez-y, monsieur.
J'ai failli faire une grosse bêtise. Ma première question, c'est est-ce que vous avez arrêté le jour précis, le moment précis où vous prendrez une décision concernant la présence de spectateurs étrangers à Tokyo? Et ma deuxième question, il n'est vraiment pas possible de savoir quels sont tous les autres pays, les autres villes qui ont présenté un dossier pour discuter avec Madame Hazen et la commission des futurs hôtes?
I can answer only to the first question, and this is that we have not a certain day, but we are very well aware that even if we would like to benefit from positive developments with regard to the coronavirus. That if we would like to wait until the very last moment, but that this is not possible because the ticketing program has to be organized, the logistics has to be taken into consideration and organized. This is about also immigration rules and so on. So, personally, I may have to refer there to Christophe Duby. You can contradict me, Christophe, but I would say maybe April, early May, roundabout, that there we would have to take this decision. But this is, very much based on the technical factors. Christophe, can you explain a little bit better than I try to?
Président, mieux, je ne pense pas, en français ou en anglais?
Anglais, Mike préfère l'anglais.
President, I would definitely not contradict you. And we have a federal council in Switzerland that has been famous for a sentence which I will use to illustrate here. We have to take the decision as late as possible, but as early as needed. And President, you described it exactly. You have a number of constraints if you want to have your spectators comfortably making the decision and knowing if they have to go or not. And I would say, President, that towards end of April would be the right time. Then, Mark, maybe one other question you ask for the spectators coming from abroad. We have a set of constraints. Now, it is understood that for local spectator, it is another logic, and we might see a decision made in two steps, one for outside and then for the rest of Japan. Now, this is also obviously needed to inform all the detailed operational planning that has to be done on a venue-by-venue basis, where you need this information because all the dimension of the key services is based on the number of spectators or the percentage of spectators per venue. So, voila, this is what we have ahead of us.
And I think, Mark, there was a second question which Christine Kloster-Assen can answer, hopefully, which is, can we know who all the other interested parties in the process is? Is that correct, Mark? I think that was your question.
Oui, tout à fait. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Madame Kloster-Assen.
It is up to the interested parties to disclose whether or not they want to be official in their communication. It's not for us to decide. So I hope that that answers your question. It's quite short, and I didn't actually understand it until Mark rephrased it in English, because I don't speak French, I'm afraid.
Not a problem.
It's always a pleasure to be translating Mark von Tuyak into English. Thank you very much indeed for all of our callers. I think we had in the end about 500 people watching the stream or taking part, so I appreciate your time, and apologies for those we couldn't reach. Thank you very much to Madame Kloster-Assen. Thank you very much, President, obviously, and thank you very much to Christophe Duby for joining us. And we will be with you again in the very near future, I've no doubt. So thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you to all of you. Have a good day, have a good night, have a good morning, wherever you are. But the most important, stay healthy and safe. And see you soon again, either on the screen or in person. Thank you and bye-bye.